Welcome to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food. I'm your host, Robert Campana, and join me as we delve into the rich heritage of genuine Italian food, exploring its legends, history, and traditions. Through important tips and insightful interviews with industry professionals, you'll gain a deeper understanding of authentic Italian food. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stop Italian Sounding show, uncovering authentic Italian food. So, if you spend any time on social media looking at my recent posts, you probably noticed one about a week or so ago about tiramisu, about specifically the legend of the tiramisu. And it's a story that's a little, let's just say, unexpected because it's the idea that the tiramisu, again, a legend, was created in a brothel in northern Italy, served up to clients at the end of a night to quote unquote pick them up, which is what tiramisu means, pick me up. And it's one of those stories that once you hear it, you can't really unhear it. But today I want to separate, of course, legend from the history that we do know, because of course it is fun to recount legends, and from legends, yes, there is some truth to it, I guess. But today, again, I want to kind of talk about what we specifically 100% do know and explore how tiramisu actually became one of the most famous Italian desserts around the entire world. So the legend is usually set in Treviso, in northern Italy sometime in the 19th century. And according to that story, a woman created this dessert in a brothel and served it to customers as a kind of energizing treat at the end of the night. And of course, the name tiramisu, which translates to pick me up or lift me up, seems to support that idea. We're talking about things like coffee, sugar, and eggs all really fit that narrative. Now, like many Italian food stories, it is a great legend. It's a fun one to tell. It's memorable. It's a little provocative, of course, and it's easy to spread. But once we look at the actual historical evidence, things become a little more clearer and, let's just say, a little more interesting as well. So most historians do agree that tiramisu is actually more of a relatively recent dessert, probably developed around the 1960s, I should say, or the early 1970s, again in the Veneto region. And one of the most widely accepted origins points to the restaurant Le Beccheria in Treviso, where a dessert very close to its modern tiramisu was first served. So it was made with simple, high-quality ingredients. We're talking about the savoiardi, which are the lady fingers, espresso coffee, mascarpone, cheese, egg, sugar, and a dusting of cocoa powder. And what's important is that tiramisu doesn't appear to be written in recipes or cookbooks really until the late 20th century, which strongly suggests that it's not a centuries-old dessert, but a modern creation inspired by older traditions. And that's where things tend to get a little interesting because tiramisu likely evolved from something much simpler and even much older. We're talking about a traditional preparation known as lo sbattuto, or in some dialects up in northern Italy, sbatutin, which was just a mixture of egg yolks, sugar, and sometimes a bit of coffee or sweet wine beaten together into a creamy, energizing mixture, if you will. And it was often given to children, to workers, or really to anybody who needed a quick pick-me-up or a quick source of energy. So when you think about it, the idea behind the tiramisu was already there. Simple ingredients, nourishment, and the concept of being picked up, which was long before the actual modern dessert actually existed. So tiramisu doesn't appear out of nowhere because it evolved from everyday Italian food culture. So how did this recent dessert become one of the most famous Italian sweets recognized and enjoyed around the entire world? So first, it's incredibly accessible. No bacon. It's incredibly simple. It uses simple ingredients. And the method basically is a method that anyone really could replicate. Second, it perfectly represents the core principle of Italian cuisine, taking a few high quality ingredients and turning them into something exceptional. And third, of course, it spread at exactly the right moment when Italian cuisine was gaining global popularity around the 20th century, I should say, around the late 20th century. And tiramisu quickly became a restaurant staple, especially outside of Italy, and today is actually one of the most recognized Italian desserts worldwide. But like many popular dishes, it's often misinterpreted. It's often altered or even simplified, which makes understanding its origins even more important. So tiramisu is indeed, in my opinion, the perfect example of something we talk about often, which is food that is surrounded by stories, by legends, by myths. And while those stories could be fun to recount, understanding the real history does help us to appreciate the dish even more deeply. The legend may not be fully true, of course, but it does reflect how people connect emotionally to food. And the history does show us something else. It shows that Italian cuisine isn't always ancient. Sometimes it's recent, it's evolving, and it's built on generations of simple traditions like lo sbattuto, like we just talked about a few minutes ago. So, the next time you eat tiramisu, you can appreciate both sides, the legend that makes it unforgettable and the history that gives it a little more meaning. So anyway, that is today's brief episode of Uncovering Authentic Italian Food. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, every Italian dish has a story, but it's always worth asking what parts are legends and what parts are history. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of authentic Italian cuisine. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more insights and interviews. Also, feel free to reach out with your thoughts or questions on our social media channels at Stop Italian Sounding or on our website stopitasounding.com. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima.